Hello and welcome to another edition of On the Whistle, a very special edition of On the Whistle because we have a Sunderland win to talk about. Finally, after 7 games, we can talk about not just a Sunderland win, but a really good Sunderland performance. Apologies for the slight change of scenery. Obviously, I usually come to you from the ground, from the press box, but to be honest, Cardiff is such a long way away. Hopefully you can forgive me. I wanted to get straight home. So I thought instead what I'll do is I'll pour myself a glass of whiskey and we'll have a bit of a late night debrief. A good afternoon watching the side. I think that was the nice thing. It wasn't just that someone found a way to win. They actually looked like the team that we sort of grew accustomed to over the last 18 months before this sort of terrible run of form. A really classic away performance in that they were happy for Cardiff to have the ball. Sunderland didn't dominate the game in terms of possession. But I felt that they kept Cardiff at arm's length, and the key thing was that every time they got the ball, they played with real purpose. The counter-attacking was excellent, and they could have scored at least double, what they did. Cardiff only really threatened from set pieces, I think, which I suppose is always a bit of a worry with this Sunderland team because we know they're not great on that front, but a really sort of vibrant performance from Sunderland and, long overdue. Certainly one they need to back up, but obviously really nice for us just to be able to sort of see that talent that we know is there. It was really interesting. Someone tweeted me during the game when Sunderland were 2-0 up and creating loads of chances and said, what's changed then? And I think there's probably a couple of things that I think sum up the performance. I think one is just confidence. I think it's a young team and they got the break they needed. The penalty decision early on, Cardiff had actually started the game really well. Was it a penalty? I'm not 100% sure. There's definitely a push on Jobe's back. Some referees aren't going to give it, but I felt Sunderland just got the look they needed. And you could see the confidence come back. And maybe that's just a byproduct of the fact that it is such a young team. And it was actually the first time since Michael Beale's last game in charge that they've taken the lead in the game. And I think you could feel almost the pressure come off them and feel as if they could relax and show what they're all about. The other big thing that I thought changed was Dodds moving Jobe back up front. It's something that I think a few of us have wanted to see for a while because he did such a decent job of it earlier in the season. I thought he was exceptional today. I thought it was quite incredible actually to watch an 18-year-old perform at that level in what is pretty much the hardest position in the pitch. He got his goal, showed that movement in the box, which was great, but it was all-round game. Held the ball up, stole the ball off defenders, brought other players into play, ran the channels at times. I thought it was an outstanding performance, and the biggest credit you can give him, I think, is that he brought the players around him into the game. And so I think that was kind of the two big things for me today. I think one was that Sunderland probably got a bit of a lucky break. That brought the confidence back. And the other thing was, I just think Jobe was so good that he gave Sunderland a platform that they've been missing so much in the final third. That's not to say he was the only good performer. I thought there were excellent performances right the way through the team. Daniel was excellent again. Pierre Ekwar, really good on his return to the starting 11. Aushish again, goal, assist, took his penalty so well. It was almost like Fabio Barini, how emphatically he took it, which was great to see. So yeah, it was really sort of a pleasing afternoon. You don't want to get too carried away, do you? Because it's been such a disappointing few weeks, but hopefully the start of a bit of a brighter end to the season. So thanks for sending your questions and comments in. To be honest, I kind of assumed that you'd all just go to the pub to celebrate a win in the bank holiday. Maybe you've done both, but really nice to get all your comments, so thanks for that. First one from Dean saying, thoroughly enjoyed watching that this afternoon, our best 90-minute performance in months. Definitely agree. Obviously, you've got to factor in the opposition. I do think Cardiff were really poor, but for me, that's the most complete performance Sunderland have produced, probably since the win over Leeds, I think, or maybe certainly the Leeds and West Brom game right after Tony Mowbray left. It's certainly the first time that I felt since Mowbray left, really, that Sunderland could score at any moment in the game. It's the first time they've played with that fluidity and that confidence, and you feel like they can really hurt the opposition. And, fair play to the players on the pitch and fair play to Mike Dodds because, that's still without Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts. There are some players coming back to fitness now, but, that wasn't by any means a full-strength team, or is how we would understand it. Players like Chris Rigg off the right, Barr, I thought, had a threat at times. So, credit to Dodds and the players that they were able to produce that level of performance with those that are missing. Tony, sort of on a theme that we've been talking about, says, Aushish's passes don't always come off, but I think he brings great energy to the attack, linked well with Jobe. Totally agree. Part of that credit goes to Jobe as well for being that player who Aushish can bounce off. But he's someone I really love watching. He takes brave options, which you've got to do in that position. That's how you create. That was a lovely cross for Jobe's goal, full of the sort of clever little touches, little flicks. But the thing for me with Aushish's, and you sort of alluded to it there, Tony, his work rate is exceptional. He presses and presses and presses and runs. And factor in as well that he's observing Ramadan at the moment, so he's fasting. That, the physical output that he's producing for the team in that context is something really quite remarkable. So, I think this is a really disappointing period generally for the team, and I think we're all disappointed with how the season's ebbed away. But one big positive is that for me that at the moment, the consistency without Shisha's playing and the attitude and work rate, for me, is emerging as someone who I think is going to have a big role to play next season and someone that you can start to depend on a little bit. Obviously, he needs to maintain it, but that's really encouraging for me. So hopefully that's something that can continue. Then we've got a few of you have all asked sort of a question around a similar theme. Tim and David both saying, will Dodds persist with playing Jobe up front till the end of the season? And another question asking what I think Jobe's best position is. I think Jobe has to stay up front for now, because I just think at the moment he's performing in that position at a level beyond anybody else in the squad. And I think you saw the impact it had on the rest of the team today, that he was able to hold the ball up, that he was able to offer an outlet. I asked Mike Dodds the exact same question after the game, is Jobe going to have to stay up there now just because of how well he did? And Dodds was fairly coy on it. The one thing he did say is that, Jobe can play in a huge amount of positions and he'll give you 100%, which I'm sure we'd all agree with. But he also said that he did it today because he felt the team needed that physical platform. And I thought Jobe certainly brought that. And he did sort of hint that he would stay there. The only reason why he didn't definitely commit to saying he'll play up front for the rest of the season is because I still think at times he maybe in one or two games will still want to try and give Hamir an opportunity, maybe Rusyn when he's fit again. Because ultimately, if we move towards the last couple of games of the season, there's not a huge amount to play for. It may be that Dodds wants to bring one of those players in to give them an opportunity, to give them some more exposure, to see how they do. But I certainly think in the short term, Jobe's level of performance today sort of demands that he stays in that position. And I know how keen Dodds is to try and get a bit of the feel-good factor and to try and build some momentum. So for that reason, I definitely think we can expect to see Jobe sort of playing up front, at least for the next couple of games, at least for the next 3 or 4 games, I think. And as I say, maybe the last couple of games, you might see him drop back into midfield. But I do think at the moment, I think for an 18-year-old to be able to look like not just a competent championship striker, but a very good one, it's an extraordinary feat. And he's a very, very impressive young player. Another comment was, how good was 09? So consistent. I was actually really pleased that someone flagged up Luke 09's performance, because I think if we think back to the QPR game, which was deeply disappointing, I thought you actually really saw how important Luke 09 is, not just in terms of his mentality and his energy, but actually his quality in bringing the ball out from the back. He can go past players, he can beat the press, he can play those passes, he can switch it out to the other flank. I thought he brought so much intensity to Sunderland's performance today and so much quality in starting attacks. Big part of the reason why Sunderland was so dangerous on the counter today was 09's quality in possession. He's not the perfect championship defender by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a very consistent one. And, sometimes you need a player to drop out of the team to really see what they do, if that makes sense. And I think the last couple of games, and today certainly, underline 09's performance, not just to the team, but his importance to the team as a central defender. So full credit to him for that, and I completely agree with that comment. The last one, I've got a question here from Mike, who says, do you know why Tommy Watson wasn't on the bench today? A player who totally understandably a lot of people are talking about, because in the absence of Jack Clarke, he's an exciting young player with a similar profile and certainly someone you'd like to see be getting more minutes. The simple answer to that is that Watson's been recovering from a hamstring injury, which meant that, to be honest, he was out for pretty much most of the time that Clarke's been out. He obviously did come back from that injury over the course of the international break, but the priority was, understandably I think, to get his match fitness up. So he played 3 times in the under-21s over the international break. Now what that meant is he didn't have much training time with the first team. So Mike Dodds' view was that it was a little bit early to bring him back into the first team because he hasn't really been training with those players. Obviously they don't want to increase his workload too much because he's gone from a period of not playing to playing 3 games in 2 weeks. He hasn't played 90 minutes in all those games, but you know what I mean. So the plan is for Watson to start sort of stepping up his first team training over the next couple of weeks. I think he'll start training with them, if not sort of permanently, then certainly semi-permanently. And I definitely think we'll see him in the squad. Maybe not on Monday, probably not next Saturday, but you will start to see him filter into the squad. And I definitely think you'll see him make senior appearances between now and the end of the season. So totally get the question. I think a little bit of patience. I think we will see some of Tommy Watson before the end of the season, and that's going to be a really exciting prospect. So there we go. That's On the Whistle. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the game today. Thank you so much for all your questions and comments. I'm now going to go and finish my whiskey, and I will see you all on Monday for another edition. So get your questions in at full time on Monday, and me and James will answer them from the Stadium of Light. Thanks very much for watching as ever.